Sergeant Major of the Army, Raymond Chandler. General James Thurman, Commander, United Nations Command, Combined Forces Command, United States Forces, Korea. General Craig McKinley, Chief, National Guard Bureau. General Carter Ham, Commander, United States Africa Command. General Ann Dunwoody, Commanding General, United States Army Materiel Command. The Honorable Joseph Westfall, Undersecretary of the Army. The Honorable John McHugh, Secretary of the Army. Mr. Nicholas Shabraya, Chairman, Association of the United States Army Council of Trustees. General Gordon Sullivan, United States Army Retired, President and Chief Operating Officer, Association of the United States Army. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our honored guest and keynote speaker, Chief of Staff of the United States Army, General Raymond Odierno. Ladies and gentlemen, the Eisenhower Luncheon honored guests.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing while Chaplain Rutherford invokes the blessing.
And let us all pray together. Father of all, source of all gifts, be with us today as we gather and celebrate the Dwight David Eisenhower Luncheon. Dwight Eisenhower was a true man of vision who led our Army and our nation at a time of turbulence. He led soldiers in battle to stop tyranny. As Commander-in-Chief at a time of unrest and war, his vision guided our nation to peace. Today, our nation and our Army live in a time of persistent conflict, a time when our soldiers fight for the freedoms of others, a time of family separation, a time of unrest. This afternoon, we gather and seek your vision for our Army. You with our Secretary and our new Chief of Staff. They see the vision that you have given them to guide our soldiers and our Army families, the true strength of our nation. Open our minds and our hearts to do your work. Bless our food and the friendship we share this day. All this we ask, in your holy name we pray. Amen.
Please be seated and enjoy your lunch. Okay, folks. Hello. Well, folks, let me officially welcome you to the Dwight David Eisenhower Luncheon. As you know, it was announced at the beginning, this lunch is in honor of General Eisenhower, who I might point out was an Army football player. And in that context, let me remind you that the Army-Navy game will be in Washington this year, in this city, on the second week of December. So those of you who are so inclined, get your tickets and get out and watch us beat Navy. The theme of this year's meeting, as you know, is America's Army, the Strength of the Nation. And the tagline underneath that, this is a professional development forum. There is no other show like this one in the world, and no other place where you can see so much in such a short period of time. From the exhibits on the floor, both Army and industry, to the professional presentations around this building. This is a unique event, and we appreciate your support. It has been the custom for a number of years at this luncheon to honor the most senior leadership of the Army who are seated at the head table. I would also like to recognize some people who are out in the audience. First, let me acknowledge the Deputy Secretary of Defense, the Honorable Ashton Carter, who's sitting here to my left. Mr. Secretary, at least he was. I'm wrong, he's down on the floor, but he was here, and we acknowledge him. I want to also acknowledge a gent who needs really no introduction to any of you, the present Secretary of Veterans Affairs, the Honorable Eric Shinseki. Rick. And somewhere in the room is another former cabinet official, General Barry McCaffrey, who, as you know, was the Secretary of Drug Enforcement and so forth. General McCaffrey, you here somewhere? How'd it go, Barry? Where? Somewhere. Okay. Let me acknowledge any of the other services of the United States who might be here at the luncheon today. And I'd like all of you from the other services to stand so that we can recognize you. I'd also like to recognize and acknowledge two Medal of Honor recipients who are with us today at this luncheon. Sergeant First Class Leroy Petrie, Afghanistan. He earned the award in 2008, and it was awarded in this year in 2011. Lieutenant General retired Bob Foley, Vietnam, 1966. Would you please stand up so we can... Would all active command sergeants major and sergeants major, that's active like wearing a uniform, active duty, Army Guard, and Army Reserve, please stand up and let's recognize you. And welcome also to all of those individuals who have been selected as outstanding non-commissioned officers and outstanding soldiers at their installations. Would you please stand, all of you who have been so designated as NCOs of the Year and Soldiers of the Year? Let me see you. Let everybody see you. also honored to have as guests of the association a number of general officers representing many of our allies and friends from around the world. I would like to ask each of the general officers is present to please stand so that we can recognize you. This is general officers from other countries, allies and friends. Years ago, the association joined with the Reserve Officers Association and the National Guard Association in a project to recognize the readiness achievements of the Army Reserve and National Guard units. When the United States Army Forces Command was created in 1973, it was charged with the readiness of all Army units in the United States. The first commander of that organization was the late General Walter T. Kerwin, Jr., who dedicated himself to the task of preparing not only the active elements, but also the reserve components on which the Army depends so much. And certainly the last 10 years has demonstrated that. Without the Guard and Reserve, it would have been impossible to do what we have done. Now, the selection process of selecting units, one from the Army National Guard and one from the Army Reserve, is difficult. The Commanding General, Army Forces Command, selects the Army Reserve unit, and the Chief National Guard Bureau selects the Army National Guard unit. As an indication of the essential role filled by Guardsmen and Reservists, it is especially significant that the Chief of Staff of the Army will make these presentations personally here right now. Would General Odierno and Sergeant Major of the Army Chandler, would you please position yourself here in front of me, and we will present the awards. The permanent plaque awards, which you will see, include the inscription, "These citizen soldiers have been chosen as the nation's best. Knowing the competition, every member of the winning unit can take justifiable pride in his or her contribution to Army readiness."
The Walter T. Kerwin, Jr. Readiness Award for the Outstanding Army National Guard Unit for training year 2010 is the 1st Attack Reconnaissance 130th Aviation Regiment. The regiment traces its roots back to 1921 and was redesigned as 1st Battalion, 130th Aviation Regiment Attack, and completed the AH-64 unit fielding at Fort Hood, Texas, through the Apache Training Brigade. The battalion was mobilized in February 1991 in support of Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and in July 1998, the unit was again mobilized and deployed to Kuwait in support of Operation Southern Watch and Operation Desert Fox. In April 2003, they became the first Reserve Component Aviation Battalion mobilized for the War on Terror and deployed to Afghanistan in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. The unit took command of a multifunction aviation task force upon arrival and flew in excess of 8,000 combat hours. Returning from Afghanistan after a 19-month mobilization, the Panthers began turning the AH-64A to transition to the AH-64D Longbow Apache and prepared for its next mobilization. The 1st Battalion, 130th Aviation, deployed in July of 2009 in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom, becoming the first reserve component AH-64D Battalion to deploy to Iraq. The 130th ARB flew over 1,400 missions, executing over 10,400 combat hours. 130th ARB continues to provide active support to the homeland and has been activated by the governor numerous times during state emergencies. Throughout its history, the unit has a proud record of service to both the state and the nation.
Would the unit representatives please come to the podium? How about a nice hand for these folks? There's some things you do in this job that are heavy lifting. That is heavy lifting. Other things you just read the script.
The Walter T. Kerwin Jr. Readiness Award for the Army's Most Outstanding Reserve Unit is presented to the 384th Military Police Battalion. During fiscal year 2010, the 384th Military Police Battalion demonstrated the ability to accomplish its wartime mission. The unit's major training exercise was the Warrior 91 exercise at Fort Hunter Liggett, California. The 384th Military Police Battalion was selected to represent the 300th Military Police Brigade during the 200th Military Police Command Battle-Focused Readiness Exercise. The high level of readiness exhibited was validated as 2 organic units were deployed in 2010, and numerous soldiers within the command were deployed with other deploying units. The battalion was successful in managing and overseeing units' pre-deployment training and post-deployment reintegration training. Would the recipients please join us on stage?
Thanks, sir. I think that's it. Thank you. To the commanders and personnel of both units, our congratulations go to all of them, and thanks to the Reserve Officers Association and the National Guard Association of the United States, in conjunction with the Association of the United States Army, for making all of that happen. Okay, go ahead.
The Stephen Ailes Award is presented annually by the Department of the Army to the Outstanding Drill Sergeant of the United States Army. This year, outstanding drill sergeants representing United States Army training centers appeared before a headquarters U.S. Army Training and Doctrine Command Selection Board to compete for this coveted award. The 2011 Army Drill Sergeant of the Year is Staff Sergeant John L. Heslin. The Ralph E. Haynes Jr. Award is given annually to the United States Army Reserve Drill Sergeant of the Year. Outstanding drill sergeants representing United States Army Reserve training divisions and separate brigades appeared before a headquarters United States Army Training and Doctrine Command Selection Board to compete for this coveted award. The 2011 Reserve Drill Sergeant of the Year is Staff Sergeant Andrew J. Palmer. The General Maxwell Thurman Recruiting Excellence Award is given each year to the Active Duty, National Guard, and Reserve Recruiters of the Year. During General Thurman's tenure as commander of the U.S. Army Recruiting Command, He significantly improved the quality of Army enlistees and helped create the professional Army of today. And he played a key role in fostering the public's positive perceptions of America's Army and its great soldiers. His influence left a mark on Army recruiting and set high standards for today's Army recruiters. The non-commissioned officers selected as the top Army recruiters for 2011. The U.S. Army Recruiter of the Year is Sergeant First Class Adrian C. Campuzano. The U.S. Army National Guard Recruiting and Retention NCO of the Year is Sergeant First Class Tavia Moschetti. The U.S. Army Reserve Recruiter of the Year is Sergeant First Class Daniel R. Lucas, Jr. The Finis D. McCleary Award is presented each year to the non-commissioned officer selected as the very best Advanced Individual Training Platoon Sergeant of the Year. The award is named in honor of Finis D. McCleary, who received the Medal of Honor while serving as U.S. Army Platoon Sergeant in the Vietnam War. McCleary's extraordinary heroism and remarkable leadership qualities are that which the Advanced Individual Training Platoon Sergeant proudly emulates, leading from the front, inspiring the highest standards of military service, and going above and beyond the call of duty. The non-commissioned officer selected as the 2011 AIT Platoon Sergeant of the Year is Sergeant First Class Paul Gall. We would like to recognize the winners of the 2011 Best Warrior Competition. If they would please join the Sergeant Major of the Army and the Chief of Staff on stage. The non-commissioned officer selected as the NCO of the Year is Sergeant Guy Malore, and the soldier selected as the Soldier of the Year is Private First Class Thomas Hauser.
Today, we're honored to have with us our 38th Chief of Staff of the Army. It gives me pride and great pleasure to present to you General Raymond Odierno, Chief of Staff of the United States Army.
Well, thank you very much. It's an honor to be here. Thank you, General Sullivan, for that introduction. Thank you for your lifetime of service to our nation and how you continue to serve every day. Thank you so much. It's really a privilege to be here at the Association of the United States Army annual meeting. And I'm extremely happy to have the opportunity to talk to all of you as the 38th Chief of Staff. In the early days of my tenure, it's particularly important as we move forward. I do want to recognize a few folks: Deputy Secretary of Defense Carter, Secretary McHugh, my boss and partner, thank you, sir. Sergeant Major of the Army Chandler, my battle buddy along the way, members of Congress, their staff, former chiefs who are here, and I don't know if I'll miss somebody, but I know that General Vlono, General Sullivan, General Reimer, General Shinseki, thank you all for being here. It's important to have your support as we move forward. I also want to thank all of the numerous current Department of Defense, Department of the Army civilians, active and retired general officers, Command Sergeant Major, thank you so much for being here. And of course, I want to thank both our Medal of Honor recipients, Lieutenant General Foley and Sergeant First Class Petrie. Thank you so much for being here as well to support us today. This luncheon commemorates the life of our 16th Chief of Staff, General of the Army and President Dwight D. Eisenhower. And many years ago, when he was faced with a significantly changing global environment, Eisenhower stated, "Our real problem is not our strength today. It is rather the vital necessity of action today to ensure our strength tomorrow." And of course, those words resonate with me, and I know many today as we sit here. We have an Army that is incredibly strong, and one that must remain so into the future. Our nation just passed a milestone in our history. Last week marked 10 years since the start of combat operations in Afghanistan. During this time, our Army has proven itself in arguably the most difficult environment we have ever faced. Our leaders at every level have displayed unparalleled ingenuity, flexibility, and adaptability. Our soldiers have displayed mental and physical toughness and courage under fire. They have transformed the Army into the most versatile, agile, rapidly deployable, and sustainable strategic land force in the world. And I'm proud to be part of this Army, in the ranks of great men and women that serve in this honored profession of ours. Having served as the Chief for a month now, I'd like to talk to you today about where we are as an Army and where we are headed. But before I get started on that, to begin, I've asked some great soldiers to join us as we show a video to remind us that the essence of our Army is our soldiers.